Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mindful Attachment Coaching channel. Today we'll talk about a topic that's central to your child's well-being, and that's secure attachment. Whether you're a new caregiver, an aunt, a grandparent, a caregiver of any sort, the insights we'll share with you today will support you in providing deeper, more stable, and secure connection with your children. For low-risk families with stable socioeconomic status, secure attachment is a likely outcome, with 60% of the parents and children having secure attachment. High-risk families with instances of mental health, substance use, general abuse, foster care placements, these families and children tend to be predominantly disorganized, with 60% disorganization rate. So what is attachment between parent and child, and why is it important? Attachment is more than just being present, physically being there with your child. It's actually making sure they feel safe and seen and known by you. That way they can have their needs met and feel secure within themselves. I want to share with you 3 actionable steps that you can implement today to begin fostering secure attachment with your child. Infants are biologically wired to seek out wiser, stronger caregivers under threat. So if you ever seen a child get worried or frightened in any way, whether they're physically or emotionally upset, they'll begin to behave in ways like crying or cooing or even smiling in order to recruit a caregiver to come to them and take care of them. And through a combination of these behaviors, they're able to maintain the right proximity. So typically, if you have children, when they're settled, they don't need you close and they can explore. If they're able to crawl and walk, they'll go off. But if they ever become upset, typically they'll either call for you to come over to them or they'll rush back to you in order to maintain just the right proximity so they can settle. Parental sensitivity is the single most important factor in terms of secure attachment. It's also most predictive of whether the parent has secure attachment, and parents that are responsive and sensitive tend to have securely attached children. Different parent behaviors leads to different attachment outcomes in the children. Based on what your parenting behaviors are now, you can make direct, intentional adjustments in order to move towards security with your child. So just at a glance, insecure parents either dismiss attachment behaviors, or they're too preoccupied with their own unfinished emotional business, or they're frightened or frightening to the child. This roughly covers the dismissive avoidant, the anxious preoccupied, and the fearful disorganized territory. Let's go more into the different attachment patterns and how they form between parent and child. Avoidant parents reject attachment needs from the children directly or indirectly. And the way this can look is, say, a child comes to the parents raising their hands and wanting to be picked up and be close. And the parent may say, "Oh, a big girl like you doesn't need to be held all the time. You're okay on your own." As a result, the child may actually stop coming to the parent with attachment needs and then direct their attention away from attachment behaviors and actually engage in playing with toys half-heartedly. All the while, they're still feeling activated and anxious, but they suppress all of that content. And the way we know that is we can measure the cortisol levels in saliva, we can measure the electrical signals on the skin to show that these children do experience anxiety, even though they don't show it. They don't come to the parent with their attachment needs. So a lot of times you may find these children engaged in other activities. This turning away by the child actually helps prevent further rejection and decrease the pain of being said no to by the parent. The core feature of resistant preoccupied parenting is that it's inconsistent. The parent may be unavailable or multitasking, too caught up with their own stuff, which leads to parenting responses that are misattuned or inappropriate. And in turn, the child over-signals their distress and over-asks for support and help. In total, the amount of responses the parent does elicit increases, but per request it actually stays pretty poor. In a disorganized, fearful parenting style, the parent themselves shows up in a frightening way or they're frightened. Sometimes this can even look like the parent is dissociative. As a result, the way the child shows up is that they both want closeness from the caregiver and they want to approach, but they're also afraid and want to get away because the source of comfort, the parent, is also the source of fear. And this creates this unsolvable dilemma. And the way this manifests in children is that they have paradoxical behavior. So say wanting closeness, reaching out, and also turning their gaze away and wanting to get away. You can also have the simultaneous activation of the attachment system, so this proximity seeking behavior, wanting closeness from the caregiver. All at the same time, there is an activation of the fight or flight response. And these contradictory behaviors can look like both features of insecure preoccupied and insecure avoidant children, all happening either simultaneously or in sequence. Because children are so vulnerable and we have these prolonged periods of childhood as humans, and we need a lot of care and safety and consistency over this period, what children find frightening in this early period doesn't need to be necessarily overtly threatening, like abuse or maltreatment. It could simply be a parent that's unavailable due to substance or alcohol use, or a parental group or family unit that has a lot of fighting that's frightening to the child. All of these behaviors are correlated with disorganized attachment outcome in the children. You may be wondering what prevents parents from providing good enough care to their children. And the answer is relatively simple. Parents largely act in ways with their children and similarly to how they were raised themselves, and it's automatic. And the way we know this is because the attachment patterns travel down the generations. So the kind of care we received as children, whether we know it or not, we tend to recreate the same patterns automatically and unconsciously. I want to talk a bit more about why secure attachment matters. Secure attachment provides lifelong benefits. So this early care we receive during childhood leads to better emotional regulation, better social confidence, ability to form relationships, and success even in our work as adults. Studies show that securely attached children are more socially confident and less likely to experience mental health symptoms like anxiety and depression. Secure children have high confidence in the responsiveness and availability of their caregivers. And as a result, they actually have high confidence in themselves, and they know that even under stress or under threat, they'll be able to figure things out because wiser, stronger people have always been there. So as adults, they become more competent, more confident, and they're up for it, able to handle things. There's now large number of studies and data showing that secure children do better at every stage of life. So they're more socially competent, they're more successful in their careers, their relationships are more stable, and they experience greater levels of life satisfaction. And then contrasting that to insecure attachment patterns, people there are much more likely to experience anxiety and depression, have relational difficulties, experience divorce. And disorganized attachment in young children is especially strongly correlated to behaviors like impulsivity, oppositional defiance, dissociation, and a whole other slew of mental health symptoms. The way you can think of this is that secure children, it's almost as if they're on a different developmental track than their insecure peers. They have better psycho-emotional functioning, even better health. If you want to build secure attachment with your children, here are 3 key actionable steps. This is based in part on Mary Dozier's research called the Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-up. The first of this is that you want to nurture your child even if you are moved away from doing so naturally. So you want to consciously and actively make an effort to provide nurturing behaviors to your child and move away from ones that are not nurturing, essentially generating positive opposites behavior of whatever conditioning you may have experienced. So for example, you may be cooking, your child may come up to you and clearly indicate to you that they want to help and participate, and your natural response may be to say no, and it's going to be too much effort, it's going to slow you down. And here would be one clear example where you can take a positive opposite action and say yes and include them. The second part is that you want to empower the child. The main message I want you to remember is that the child leads and you support them. And I've broken this down into smaller steps, the first of which is that you want to attune to the child and ask yourself, what state are they in? They be thinking and feeling. What are they up to? Even what biological state are they in? Say, are they sleepy? Are they about to wake up? And then based on that, you want to respond and empower them. If they're dysregulated and you're noticing they need some help, you help soothe them. And if they need sleep, you help them take a nap, whatever they may need. And with this approach, you're not only showing them how to settle in the moment, they're actually learning how to co-regulate with you. And then in that way, they can begin to internalize their own ways of regulating. So say, when I feel like this, when I'm in this state, that's what this state means. And this is how I settle with the help of another person. And then they can do it for themselves in the future. So over time, as you do this over and over again in different contexts, different situations, the child actually gets better at emotionally regulating and they're more settled more of the time. And what this leads to is emotional mastery. And this is something I talk about in my other videos, is that secure children build up this inventory, a library of different ways to regulate and resolve different difficulties they may be experiencing. And when your child is settled, their attachment system is off, what happens is they naturally begin to play and explore. The exploratory system turns on. And when that happens, you empower them. You encourage them to explore and play, to take the world apart themselves. And they're leading and you're in the background. If they need your support, you support them. And even if their interests are different than yours, you want to be able to support them. And also you want to allow them room to make their own mistakes, begin to form a sense of who they are and what they're about. And the last point here is that you want to touch into the joy of parenting, not just the duty, the responsibility of doing so. And you as a parent need a good amount of social support, other people taking care of you, so you can feel good enough that you can generate these positive feelings about yourself as a parent, that you're doing a good enough job. And you can get excited, you can feel good about your children. And they begin to experience themselves in this background, the backdrop of positive emotions. So if you look at a secure parent-child dynamic, you'll often see both the parent have this, it can be called a pride or a glimmer in their eyes. They're excited about who the child is. They're proud of them. They're often talking about different developments and how the child is doing, and they're joyful about this. And then the child also has this spark. They can look over the parent and feel good about themselves. And in terms of qualities, this can look like delight, humor, lightheartedness, compassion, these positive feelings coming through. And then the last step isn't actually about doing anything. It's more about not engaging in frightening behaviors. So any kind of behavior that the child may find frightening or terrifying. So say if you're in a family or you're partnered and there's a lot of arguing and physical, emotional violence, any kind of abuse, yelling, all of that can be frightening to the child. And these behaviors have a special category because they're so strongly correlated with disorganization. And as much as you can, as a parent, you want to stop yourself and prevent yourself from engaging in these behaviors. And sometimes that may mean doing your own work, getting additional support as a parent, so you no longer have to show up and engage in these behaviors. Any of these behaviors are so detrimental that they essentially undo all of the other good work you may be doing in the previous steps. So you may be showing up good enough in other ways, but if you're frightening, the child doesn't have safety, and safety is really the baseline of secure attachment, of secure parenting. And because of the stress response in the child to these frightening behaviors, it actually has a neurobiological response, and it prevents normative development of the brain and the body. This really is the foundation of secure attachment, just these three behaviors. And of course, there's other challenges, crises, developmental milestones that child may be having difficulty with, the parents themselves may be having difficulty with. Yet just coming back to these three behaviors is enough for the child to have secure attachment. And if you're a parent and you're listening to this and you may be wondering whether you have your own insecure attachment and you want to work on that, you can check out my work at mindfulattachmentcoaching.com, and we offer one-on-one services, specialized assessments, and courses where you can learn more. Parenting is an ongoing process, and it's never too late to make these changes. Attachment patterns are foundational, and by fostering secure attachment in your child, you're giving them the tools to navigate their life with confidence. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights on attachment theory and parenting. See you in the next video.